Hi, this is Danielle, and I'm here with the inbound marketing team. It's Thursday, February 11th, and this is our weekly recap video. Starting us off with lessons learned, moments of insight this week is Michael.
Thanks, Danielle. Yeah, this is not necessarily an oh wow, I just learned, just a oh wow, I keep continuing to learn the importance of psychological safety. I think this one's like a trigger one for me because I can see different versions of myself in the past where like the behaviors that I'm now aware of and have learned of, I'm like, oh wow, I did like all of those. What a terrible person to be around. Maybe not that drastic, but I just wanted to share with everyone it's like we're all working together and doing awesome stuff and we want to do amazing things and um ideas, it's kind of a cheesy thing, but like ideas are like little seedlings and it's really nice to water them and work together. So just some tactics or strategies I've learned that I've been finding helpful is like when you're going to say a sentence and you kind of know there's a but in it, the reality is everything you said before the but is just trying to soften what comes after the but. So try and replace it with and, or like from there's some stand-up practices where you would do yes and. So try and just see what would happen if you change that sentence to yes and. You'd be surprised how interesting that conversation gets. Um, Try saying we instead of I. I've noticed it's a really easy way to like enroll people and bring them towards like know that you're collaborating. And then this one I learned this year, which was kind of a big one doozy for me, is I read this study that this isn't just for psychological safety, this is for like human interaction. It takes 5 positive actions to undo 1 negative action. So, you know, it just really underscored to me the importance of making sure that we're conscious of this kind of thing. And then Brandon, I appreciate you so much in our one-on-ones, and we connect, fairly often about this kind of stuff. And I had to take the opportunity to put the Michael Scott picture in because Brandon said people remember how you make them feel, not what you say. And I'm obviously going to quote Brandon on that because he said it to me, but apparently it's a Maya Angelou quote. So reminded me of that part in The Office. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Thanks, Michael. Mine's pretty quick. I was have a goal to set up skip level one-on-ones with everyone every 6 weeks or so, and I think I have this story in my head of myself as this like really conscientious and organized manager, but I was telling Michael actually like I started to go through the list and I was like, oh shoot, I haven't had one-on-ones with some of these folks ever, and that's really embarrassing. And then some of them also the last time it happened was like June, so I don't really know where all that time went, but just want to say I am fixing it and I'm sorry. It's definitely not intentional. It's just something that seems to have fallen off the back burner. So it's kind of a little bit of a narrative violation for myself, which was interesting. Cool. So I'll hand it over now to Shane Rice for metrics.
Thanks, Danielle. So for metrics this week, I'm going to focus a little bit on something that I put together just to automate some of this. So let me share my screen. Just 1 second. All right, great. So yeah, I've shared this in the past, the growth marketing recap. Back when the team was still growth marketing, I never renamed it. So this automated some of the MQL reporting that we did to get pace and other items out there. So I'm upgrading this to include some of the things we report on around page views and users, but to only look at the channels that we're most in control of. So direct, organic, referral traffic, visitors that are coming from organic search, and then look at what this looks like year over year for our specific channels. And so this is where we're at. And so this is a little bit different picture than we've seen from, the overall report when we look at all channels together. And so I thought this was something to share. This is still preliminary. I'm going to double check the numbers and just make sure everything aligns up. But had a chance to do that page views. Everything looks good there. The users is such a big difference that I'm really going to dive in and check that a little bit more. As far as inquiry goals, our goal for this quarter is 33,400. And so far, when you look at unique emails added in Sisense and you exclude things like Zoom info and AE generated items that are not directly related to what's happening on the website, there are 11,300 inquiries today for February. I need to get with Danielle and just talk about how we're going to report on this and what we're going to do. Again, this is kind of a preliminary. but I think that's encouraging to see that we're I think in that number we can be confident that we're on track to reach the goal for the quarter. So that's what we have so far, and I know it's kind of early. I appreciate everybody bearing with us as we go through and figure out exactly what numbers we're reporting in that inquiry number, because it is such a if we counted all GitLab.com registrations, right, like we blow this number out of the water by multiples. And so I think this is just something we're continuing to iterate on, and I'm happy to take any questions if we have any. Let me check the agenda to see if anyone's added something. I don't see any.
I have a real complicated one in the Zoom chat. Where is the link to what you were just sharing?
Oh yeah, I'll add it to the document now.
Oh great, okay, I'm not going crazy.
No, I haven't added it. I was like working on it till like the minute before the meeting, so I was a very last minute on this morning. Okay, well with that then, I don't see any other questions. I'll add that to the document, and let's see. Okay, Danielle's adding a comment about the inquiry, so I'll incorporate that into next week. So with that, I'll pass it over to Michael to lead show and tell.
Thanks, Shane. So show and tell. So we're gonna share some awesome stuff that we did in the past week. Everyone is invited to contribute. If you've got stuff in there, great. If you think of something, just type it in and get in. Share your screen. Let's take a look at what's been going on. So Danielle, you're first.
Yes, I have realized I think we probably could refresh our onboarding a little bit, and I want to make sure everybody has seen this communication part of the GitLab handbook, because it's pretty helpful and definitely battle tested as the company has scaled up. And there's a couple things I just wanted to draw your attention to, because I think we might have an opportunity to improve a little bit in terms of just using public channels, right? So that we can always have the right person in the conversation and they can chime in if they want to help. We have a lot of proliferation of channels, which I think is making it maybe a little harder to make sure you're always in the right convos. So people are like CCing and tagging folks. So that might also be an opportunity. We might want to like collapse down to a smaller set, but I don't want to dictate that. Just something, once you read this, maybe you'll have some thoughts too on what we could do to be better. But the biggest thing is just, if I at Michael or at Becky or at Shane or anybody on the team, I just want to make sure, I'm not calling you out. I just want to make sure it shows up in your notifications, but I'm going to try really hard to stop doing things in private channels unless it's about personnel issues, because I think everyone deserves to see the questions and the strategy and the issues that are coming up, so everyone knows what's going on. And it's probably the best way to stay up to date on what's happening in the team throughout the week without having me, give a big standard status update here. So just if you have a minute, check out that page. I think a lot of thought has gone into how to make communication work on Slack and async, and I think this can help us all. Oh, Michael, you got some questions. Do you want to verbalize those?
Yeah, I was just thinking what you were just talking about made me think, do we have a list of like all of the channels? Because I'm sure like if you're not in the channel, you don't actually know what, like I don't have a lot of context for what your statement or what that kind of like ecosystem of channels looks like.
Yeah, I should probably make a handbook edit, because I've only found them just through osmosis over time. So I'll take that to do there. And just in the sake of time, I think maybe we can take your other question offline. Is that okay?
It's super important, but I can definitely wait.
I see that. All right, next up is Rebecca Dodd. She's on PTO. She says Vicky has created an MVC new blog performance dashboard. Looks like this is a video link that you can watch at your leisure. Next up is Tina.
Hi, I can't seem to share this morning. 1 second. All right, so I just wanted to quickly share some designs we did for the blog post. As many of you know, we're integrating the CMS to the blog this month, and we're taking the opportunity to also refresh the design. So I've linked to the Figma file. I'm not going to make everyone dizzy and go through everything, but there's some mobile designs here, some design rationale. I've also linked to the issue, so you can follow on some of the conversations we've been having about the blog, so you can review the wireframes and some of the discovery work that was done last quarter. That's it. Next, oops, stop share. Sorry, there we go. Sammy.
Now you are, Sherry. Oh, Sandy, great.
You're muted.
Sammy, you're muted.
Thank you. There are two new pages that we developed just during this sprint, the campus page and the small business page. So for the small business page, I'm trying to share my screen. I'm sharing my screen now. This is how it looks like. And it's live already right now. So this page is to for us to tap into the community of small business owners who wants to use GitLab as a product to manage their code base. And the mobile version is right here, which looks beautiful. Thanks to Tina and Jesse, they did a very good job on the UX design. And I'm super excited for the blog that Tina just put together right now. So the campus page is right here. This is for campuses, for education, for colleges, and where we can get a lot of students who are going to enroll and start using GitLab. So these are the two pages that we just developed during this sprint, and I'll pass it over to Valerie. Thank you.
Hi all, I'm not going to share the survey because it's in Qualtrics, so it's not like real gorgeous to look at, but I do want to tell you a couple of things about it. It's live. This is our at least fourth year of doing this survey. And so far, in just 2 days, 2,100 people have already taken it. That is an unprecedented number. I think that we've offered folks this year sort of a chance to sort of having a take your own swag adventure. And it got off to a bit of a rocky start through no fault of our own. But it's gone well. And I think the key thing that we need to know, though, is that there are a lot of people out there who just love freebies a little bit too much. Will Spillane spent a whole lot of time yesterday deleting over 500 orders, largely from India, Kuwait, and the Philippines, of people who just went and got one piece of swag, and then they got 2 pieces of swag, and then some people got 28 pieces of swag, and one guy this morning got 85 pieces of our swag. So yeah, a little disheartening. And kind of a hard, unfortunately, Printfection, our platform, is really good at sending out like weekly, but it's not real good at sort of the security stuff. This all has to be done kind of manually. So the good news is the swag giveaway is getting people to take our survey, but the bad news is, yeah, there's a lot of bad actors out there. And the second thing for me is our second issue of the DevOps Download newsletter goes out midday today. We're looking to do some different things with this newsletter that we've never done before. And we've asked Michael's team to create an archive so that we can actually have these live on the site, link to them and refer to them, that kind of thing. Reminder, this is our newsletter that's just focused on developers, and the only GitLab mention is our monthly release. Okay, over to Stephen.
Thank you. Just let me share my screen. Can everybody see? Thumbs up. Okay, continuing on from all the great work that we see with the design output and from the work that Sammy has done, in the back of all this is Slippers, which is our design system. So important to sort of highlight this, and that we're not just doing static pages, but we're all pulling from this repo. So what does that do? Oh, am I paused?
Nope, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay. I got a little thing saying my screen is paused. So what is this? So it's a reusable repo. It's consistent. It's a direct replica of what we have in Figma as well. So the design to code is relatively seamless. A couple of bugs perhaps here and there, but as you can see, it doesn't look like much, but when we trickle down into it, we have our spacing. So we have component spacing, we have layout spacing.
Oh, I think it is frozen.
Oh,
Stephen.
it is. Oh.
Yeah, so we're just seeing the get started.
Hold on.
Zoom's having some issues today. There we go.
There we go. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So spacing, we have component spacing, we have layout spacing. Component spacing will be the spacing within blocks, within components like buttons, form fields, stuff like that. Layout spacing is more the spacing on the page, so adding rhythm to the page. We have our type stack as well, all consistent, all being pulled from the same spot. And we also have our buttons. And we have our variations of buttons in here. So what this does is increases the speed of output for our team. So whenever we decide to do something, we can pull from the same source. There's no variations that could over time can build up to create this huge amount of design debt. It also alleviates our tech debt as well over time. And yeah, every page that we begin to build now will pull from the same source. This helps us then that if and when we decide to make changes to anything in the future, whether it be a color for accessibility reasons or brand reasons, whatever it is, once we make it, we can manage that change across all instances where a certain component or element may be. So this is some of the stuff that we've been doing in the back, as well as just coming up with really lovely pages. It's building in this consistency, so our team are working more efficiently. It helps our brand consistency as well, so that we don't end up with slight variations with type, color, things like that across. So you can see, like, if we just use our buttons are so common. If you had a consistent button used across all the pages, that level of consistency brings up the standards for our website. But we're beginning to use more so our spacing and our type stack and our colors as well. So yeah, just thought I'd give a little show and tell on that there's not just lovely pages being output, there's actually an ecosystem of design and product architecture behind all this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Suri.
Oh, and I was muted. So I wrote an ebook on the 4 most common code review techniques. This is a beginner's guide, and it complements the version control and collaboration use case. This is useful for practitioners who want tips on which type of code review approach would work best for their team. So in the draft, I put these call outs so that it helps Luke and his team with layout and formatting. And there's just a little bit at the end about GitLab features to help people learn more about GitLab. That's all I have. Thank you for listening.
Next up, we have Erica. Looks like she's not going to be able to be here. Erica, are you here? Doesn't look like it. Erica's sharing, here's a look at a few of the videos we produced for SCO. Oh, that's cool. We've got 3 links. Looks like with some value drivers, separate but together pro tips, and then the closing keynote. So I for one know I'm going to watch that. Thanks for sharing. Brandon, you're up next.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen here while there's a call going on from a laptop single display. Okay, so I won't spend too much time on this because pricing page is pricing page. We can all go there. We've seen it before, and we recently had the big announcement, but I just wanted to go over what we're testing and why at the moment. So one of the things we're testing is the display. Do we use a table to group features? How do we group them? Some of the things we've done are reduce the number of features that are presented to be more relevant to our buyers, and then also build the value so you can see, you know, here's what the free gets, here's what the premium gets, here's what the ultimate gets in each comparison. Make it a little clearer why you'd want to buy each. And then that's one iteration of it. And then another iteration is kind of a different way to present the same information based on feedback from Sid and other stakeholders, is a view more button. And we're getting some interesting analytics on this in terms of how many people actually click on the view more button. You know, who are the kind of people who already know what they're going to buy when they get here, and maybe this list is enough, versus the number of people who want to view more. And so we're getting a lot more data about that from this click. So yeah, thanks for that listening.
Yeah, it's on to me. I'll just share my screen. So just sharing just a little bit of a tool Ms. Evan Shea we're working on earlier in the week. It's just Google Sheets that allows to do projections and forecasts based on historical data. So we're currently just looking at for page views or organic traffic, etc. But it could be useful for other applications. So I would I would advise someone if they want to play with it just to make a copy of the sheet. And if you have any data that expands over a 2-year period, you can put it in and start just analyze what projections might be. But it just allows us to forecast possible traffic or organic trends based on like upper level, lower level, or bottom level trends. So we can just estimate where we should be and maybe how much we should be focused on certain elements of tasks just to kind of hit those targets. But there's also a video connected if you want to do a run through, but it's just a fun thing to play with. So if anyone wants to mess around with it. And I'll hand it over to Lauren.
So this quarter, we're going to be building a learning resource for Git with the TMGR group. And this is going to start with the non-technical audience. So really similar to what Michael just did with some of our digital experience team members. So I've linked the epic there. Please hop in, chime in. We're just getting started on building out what that resource might look. And we're starting with gathering all of the wonderful content we have about Git. So if you know of some GitLab content, please chime in there. And I'll pass it over to Jess.
Hey guys, so I want to show a couple things. First is this GitLab partners page. It is a little bit of a reskin, a little bit of an UX update from the one that exists now. And I just kind of started throwing this together yesterday, so it's still a work in progress, but definitely a big upgrade from the current one. And then I also want to share something else I'm doing, which is a tree test on our navigation. And a tree test kind of asks questions to a user, and then you ask them kind of like, where would you find this thing? And they go through our navigation, not our actual navigation, but kind of like a spreadsheet-ish version of our navigation and try and find it. So this is also still a work in progress. I had a bunch of these run overnight, so I don't know what the answers are yet, but we can kind of see, we have 12 different tasks and kind of see some are succeeding much better than others. So whatever this #1 task is, people who are really struggling to find that thing within our navigation versus like number 12 here, looks like most people can find it. So we'll kind of look through that data, run a few more tests, and kind of understand what's working and what's not working for our navigation. I think Laura was next.
Yeah, I think I'm up next. So I will share my screen here. I just wanted to show an out of the office report page that went live, as this was a report done in 2020. And so there is a bit of information on the project, and then you can download the full report PDF here. So that's ready for your viewing pleasure. And I think in the interest of time, it is shoutouts next, and I think Valerie's first.
Just going to say that it's not every day that we're fighting swag pirates, so that's a big job. So I want to shout out Will Spillane and Emily Kyle for having my back on the survey. Really two people who I could not year in and year out do it without their help. Will in particular is quite a swashbuckler. I bet you didn't know that about him. Okay, over to Suri.
Thanks, Val. So I would like to thank Niall for identifying code review as an additional keyword we should target, and that helped me expand the content for the version control and use case last quarter. And I also want to thank Val for doing a content review of the ebook I shared earlier and suggesting that I add findings from the 2020 developer survey. I'm so excited about this year's survey. It's going to be amazing. Now on to Becky. Bree.
It's me, about Becky. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to Becky because she basically helped create the template for the sales localization. And without her sort of getting the ball rolling, I wouldn't be able to keep it moving. So shout out to her. And then also shout out to Val for getting the survey published on time, all while continuing to do her regular job and getting everything squared away like we heard, and doing it with ease, basically. So that is the end of the shout outs, I believe, unless there's anything else. That's it.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.